Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and I got this message on YouTube, this comment, and I wanted to read it to you all and respond to it. Here it is. You do great work, Pat. You should get together with Deception Detectives channel on YouTube. The attorney who does statement analysis on the McCanns, fabricated stories, and interviews. You would be a formidable foundation for a team to expose these liars with the undefeatable truth. They have enjoyed 17 years of freedom via 17 years of deception and establishment protection. Sickening. All right. I want to respond to, if I hooked up with a deception detective, we would be a formidable foundation for a team to expose these liars. Well, I hate to say this, nothing against deception detective. I'm glad he's done his these kind of analyses. I'm glad it's out there, but these analyses have been done before by Peter Hyatt, who is fabulous at doing statement analysis on McCanns. As a matter of fact, if we look back in time, we're talking about a team, a formidable team to fight to get the truth. We have had Gonzalo Amaral, the original detective on the case, who fought in the beginning to get evidence that the McCanns, because he believed the McCanns were involved in the disappearance 2007 of Madeleine McCann. He worked very hard, bringing them in for interviews, and Kate refused to even answer any of the questions. And dogs were brought in, cadaver and blood dogs, hitting on the McCann's apartment, the vacation flat and their car. He did a lot of work, and he eventually got taken off the case. And he wrote a book, and I don't know how many of you have read this book. He put his book out called The Truth of the Lie, originally in Portuguese. Also, you can get it on online in English in a PDF form. You can just put in Truth of the Lie and do a download. He was sued by the McCanns and had his book taken off the market. Then I came along. Oh, by the way, there's another fellow named Tony Bennett. He was an attorney. He put out a booklet. He lived in the UK, quite near them, and he put out a booklet about the disappearance of Madeleine, and they went after him and pretty much tore him up. Then I put out this book, Profile of the Disappearance of Madeleine McCann, and I was also Carter Ruck, that's their attorneys, top libel attorneys in the world. They came after me through Amazon, saying my book was libelous. Amazon pulled my book off the market. You can find it any place but Amazon. It is in an ebook form. You can go to Kobo and Smashwords and Apple and get my book, because the McCanns were like, okay, those are smaller places because Amazon's the big place, right? Kate came out with her book and she made a fortune on it. So we have Gonzalo Amaral fighting for years, bringing out his book. He won in the top court in Europe. So now his book is back on the market. He's written a second one, I believe. I'm not quite sure about the publication of that. Then you had me. You had with my book. You had Tony Bennett. You had other people doing a lot of work. You have wonderful analyses of Peter Hyatt, who put his career on the line to go up and speak about his belief that when he analyzed the McCanns statements, that they were deceptive, and he believed that they were involved in the disappearance of Madeleine. We have Sonia Poulton out of the UK, who's fought for a long time to bring out facts and the evidence in the case. We have wonderful journalists out of Portugal, and we have Mark Sonokonoko out of Australia. He's done fabulous stuff on this. So if you think one new person, or if I hook up with one person, or two people hook up together, we're going to blow this apart, I hate to say, you're wrong. You're just wrong. Not because people don't care, not because people don't want the truth out there, not because I'm still willing to speak the truth, and so are these other people. The problem is this: Scotland Yard. I wrote about this back when they came in 2011. Scotland Yard opened up the review on the Madeleine McCann case. And I wrote a blog back in 2011. I said, it's over. They have just killed the investigation of Madeleine McCann. And I got a lot of people super angry at me because they're like, how dare you say that? You know, Scotland Yard's going to do a great job. You're an American. You don't understand how good Scotland Yard is. Why would you say this? The case is going to be solved. That was 2011. It's 2023. They haven't found jack, but they spent 23 million not finding anything. However, here's why they screwed the entire case. I'm going to look at Mark Sonokono's article and just read you a couple of lines. Retired detective Colin Sutton, who's also a great guy out of the UK and spoke up. Colin Sutton said Operation Grange was hobbled from the start, and its chances of finding out what happened to the missing girl were diminished. Well, that's a polite way of saying completely screwed. The public remit, this is the whole point, the public remit for Operation Grange sought only to explore an abduction theory with no other possibilities to be investigated. Now, the number one rule for doing any investigations or any review is that you come in with a fresh mind. You start at the very beginning, analyzing every shred of evidence. That's the physical evidence, that's the statement evidence, that's the behavioral evidence, everything you can. Every case I've ever worked on with the police department, I've walked in that door and I say, I don't want to know what you think. And they try to tell me, I go, I really don't want to know. Let me sit down. Here's what I want you to bring me first. I start with the crime scene photos and I work from there. And then I bring in things after that. When I'm finished, I write up my analysis, my profile of the case, what I think happened. Sometimes it'll agree with what the detectives think. And sometimes it does not agree with what the detectives think. I'm not there just to pat backs. I'm there to give a professional opinion. And once I do that, it's in their hands and they can use my analysis in any way they wish to forward the case or forward their investigative avenues. Oh, that's grand. But I didn't come in with somebody saying, you can't look at this person and you can't look at that person. You can only look here. Give me a tunnel to look through. No. That is completely 100% wrong. So Scotland Yard had a remit to not look at the McCanns as being involved in any way, shape, or form. Taking the tapas people out of the picture as well. Let's not talk to them. Let's not look at anything that could point toward the McCanns. That's ridiculous. That shows me that's a political move and nothing but a political move. Now, on top of this horrific political move from the UK, from Scotland Yard, the Portuguese, by that time, poor Amaral was off the case. The Portuguese government, not the PJ, but the government, because they actually run everything, right, permitted Scotland Yard to come to Portugal and interfere with their investigation. And not only did they allow them to interfere, they allowed them to determine the direction of the investigation, which was we're going to look for a predator. We're going to look for an abductor. We are not going to look at the McCanns. And once Scotland Yard did that, and they were allowed to do that, it killed the integrity of the entire investigation. So, and then this goes on year after year after year after year. It's all about the abductor. And now the media, knowing where their money lies, everything is pro Jerry and Kate McCann. Everything is pro-abduction theory. And anybody who speaks out, like myself, I've done a couple documentaries and I was liable to death in those suckers. I had my words changed. I had questions. I was asked a question. I gave an answer and they switched the question out. So my answer was different, the wrong answer for the question. So they went after anybody who did not support the abduction theory. And either you weren't allowed to be in the documentary and speak out, or you got libeled. So, and of course, speaking out doesn't help your career, because there's a whole media push that the McCanns could not be involved in what happened to Madeleine. So even shows that I did, like Nancy Grace, I was on Nancy Grace like 3 times a week for like a decade. I wasn't even allowed to be on my own. The show I always did, because Nancy knew that I believed that the evidence supported the McCann's involvement. I wasn't allowed on the show. I'm not saying Nancy, maybe the producers, but whatever. I wasn't allowed on any American show outside of Montel Williams in the early days to speak about this case. I was shut out. Gonzalo and I tried to write a book together, went to my agent with that, and she tried to get a publisher, and not one U.S. publisher would touch the book because they were afraid of the repercussions legally. They were going to get sued. They were afraid of that. They didn't want to be Carter Rucked. So the whole media jumped on board to support. Now that Scotland Yard says it's an abduction, we're out there to say it is an abduction. And now time has gone on, and the Germans have jumped in with Christian Bruckner because we have their prosecutor who wants to make a name for himself, even though he has no evidence to support his conclusions. And Mark Sonokonoko really took him to task. He's got a great interview. Just tear him up, and putting him on. It's like he couldn't answer any of the questions. It was great. So Christian Bruckner has no evidence supporting that he had anything to do with the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. But now they're jumping on board. So here's the problem. In 2023, which is 16 years from the time Madeleine disappeared, going on almost 17 years, unless one of the McCanns confesses, unless Madeleine's body is found with something linking back to the McCanns, like she's found in like Jerry's sports bag, unless one of these two things happen, any case that would go to court would be highly circumstantial. And no prosecutor in the right mind is going to take that to court when Scotland Yard, one of the top agencies in the police agencies in the world, highly respected, has said it's not the McCanns, it's an abduction. And you got the Germans jumping on board saying it's not the McCanns, it's an abduction. And you got Portugal for years allowing everybody else to basically run the show. And they kept quiet. Some people think, oh, they're working on it secretly. No, they're not. They're just not. Because if they were, they would speak up. It's their case. And when they let these guys in for political reasons, not the PJ, I'm not blaming anybody that's on the police level. When the politicians of Portugal allowed Scotland Yard to come in and take over their case, make their determinations to be the public determinations of what happened in this case, that case was lost. Lost, gone, and dead. As dead as Madeleine. I know that's not what everybody wants to hear. It's like being that messenger that everybody wants to, shoot down, and say, well, you're just a negative person. We always have to have faith, and blah, blah, blah. I'm a realist. I've been around on this case for a really long time. And would I wish that the truth has been out there as far as evidence goes, but that absolute proof, which is why it hasn't hit a court of law. Where is the proof? I would love the proof to show up and my God, to say, oh my God, I'm so surprised. That's just amazing. I would love that. But I'm a realist. I don't think it's going to happen because unless one of these two things, a confession by the McCanns or the body of Madeleine being discovered with links back to the McCanns, not just her body discovered, that's not going to prove anything. But a body discovered with something that would link to the McCanns has to be one of those two things for this to be enough proof for any prosecutor to actually prosecute the McCanns. Other than that, it's not going to happen. And worse, it might just be that Bruckner will take a deal, say he did it, and everybody will go home happy, except the people that think that it's not true. But it would end the case in a way that it shouldn't be ended. But I've always thought that they were going to find a fall guy for this case. It was going to either be a dead pedophile or somebody who would take a plea deal, somebody who's believable enough. I mean, Bruckner's a piece of crap. He's a psychopathic rapist. Could he have kidnapped her or child like her? Sure. I'm not saying he's not the kind of guy who might do it. I'm just saying there's no evidence pointing toward Bruckner, and there's no evidence of an abduction, and all the evidence points back toward what happened that night with the McCanns and the tapas. But you don't have to go to court to close a case. All you need to do is have people believe that you found the person. You can close a case administratively with a dead pedophile. You can do that. We all the evidence points here, we're closing the case because we know who it is. We just know he's already dead, so we can't do anything. But or with a false confession from somebody who will take the hit because they're going to get something out of it. In which case the case closes down, and the media will say hooray, hooray, and the McCanns will say thank you. We finally got the answer. And that truth that people think is going to come out, probably not. I'd like to be wrong. Maybe I will be. But I think meanwhile, I'm not saying people shouldn't keep up the discussion, keep the evidence out there. I'm perfectly fine with that. If new people want to come along and discuss this kind of things, I'm grand with that. But I personally think that I've already done my piece. I've written a book and I've written a ton of blogs. So you can find them at the Daily Profiler. And I do speak out once in a while on YouTube when there's something to say. I will link my video on the general case below. But I don't have a lot of high hopes. I don't. And I'm not going to spend, a whole lot of time reviewing everything that that's already out there, and is probably not going to bring the case to a courtroom with the McCanns, sitting there as defendants. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I just wanted to say that. Thank you for being here. If you haven't been here before, please do subscribe to the channel. Check my playlist. I got a lot of cases outside of the McCanns that I do analyze and helps people understand the whole process of criminal profiling and crime scene analysis. And I might be back to speak on the case, but only if there's some major breaking news. And thank you for being here again. Bye-bye.